Good evening. I'd like to call our meeting here to order here for February 27th, 2023, please. If everyone would quickly, briefly join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll keep this moving. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'll start quickly first with roll call, and then I'll turn this over to Mr. Coy briefly.
Okay. Roll call. Filkins.
Here.
Rice.
Here.
Bunce. Bosher.
Here.
Bauman.
Here.
Fent.
Here.
Putvin.
Here.
Okay.
Thank
John,
you.
I guess everybody, I just want to real quickly, Marcus, I don't think you've met Peggy Host before. Peggy's name is going to be submitted to council to sit in, be a part of this commission for the 4th Ward, I believe it is. Would it be the 4th Ward? So she came last time, I think we met, and she's here tonight to just sit in. What's I really want to share with everybody is that Peggy has fair amount of experience. Back in the mid to late 90s when she lived in Mount Pleasant. She served on the Planning Commission there. And then in the late 2009 to 2017, when she lived in Benzie County, she served on the Planning Commission there. So she does have experience with exactly what you folks do every year. And when we got her application, it was like, great. She understands the process. So that's it, Peggy. I just wanted to introduce you so everybody knows. And this is our city manager, Marcus. And I think from the last time you were here, you got to meet a few of them. So with that, that's all I have to say.
Wonderful. Thank you. And welcome, Peggy. Okay.
I'm going to add Bunce to the roll call. Are you here,
Yes.
David?
I'm here.
Okay.
We have to vote
Finally
on,
got out of my driveway.
do we have to vote on that?
That I'm here.
I'm going to take it as
Well, yeah, we will. Okay. Need approval of agenda here for February 27th, 2023.
Support. Second.
I think the mayor was first, and I think Joe was
Okay,
second.
third
I think.
then.
We got it covered.
Third, it's all covered.
Got covered.
Okay. Bosher.
Yes.
Bauman.
Yes.
Bunce.
Yes.
Fent.
Yes.
Rice.
Yes.
Filkins.
Yes.
Putvin.
Yes. For those that follow us, before I do this other, we did not have meetings in November, December, or January. So those that follow us, you didn't miss anything because we weren't here. So, thus brings up the approval of the October 24th, 2022 meeting minutes.
Motion for their approval.
Support.
Anything, Dale?
Okay. Fent. Fent.
Yes.
Bunce.
Yes.
Filkins.
Yes.
Rice.
Yes.
Bosher.
Yes.
Putvin.
Yes.
Bauman.
Yes.
Okay, this evening we have a public hearing. So we have an ordinance amending the city zoning ordinance for the property located at 128 East Pine Street. The property is currently zoned OS2, Office Service District, and the applicant wishes to have the zoning changed to B2, Downtown Central Business District. Having read this, Mr. Wallace, are you running with it, sir?
Yes, thank you. I have presented you with my staff report on the rezoning. It was in your packets, also on the table in front of you. I prepared a PowerPoint presentation, which is kind of a summary of that report. So I thought I would just go through that for the benefit of people who may be watching at home to see the essence of this rezoning application. For those of you who knew Bob Levan, who used to chair our DDA for many, many years, this is his old house. He moved out west. And this property sold recently and was purchased by the applicant. And his desire, due to the nature of this house and its high quality and the many amenities that are found in the house, wanted to use it as a short-term rental. I will get into that a little bit later, but I'll just go through some of the existing land uses and zoning districts around the property. You can see in the black box, it's actually the rezoning site. There are mostly single-family homes to the south and to the east. The home directly across the street to the north is actually, I think, a duplex unit. So what we have is mostly single and duplex development surrounding the site. Immediately west of the site is the Book Nook, which is a commercial use adjoining the site. To give you some idea of the visuals, the house to the east of the site is in the top left, the gray house. To the west is the Book Nook, which is in a B2 zone. To the north, on the bottom left, is the duplex unit. And then immediately to the west of the duplex unit, we have the city public parking lot.
John, can I correct just 1 second? That house to the north is a fourplex. That's a 4-unit there.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. I saw the two doors and I just thought it was a
Two up, two down.
Two up, two down. Okay. To summarize the zoning, there are 3 zoning districts in the immediate area. The Mitchell Street commercial uses are in the B2. The site immediately adjacent to the site to be rezoned is B2 as well, which is the Book Nook. The property immediately touching and surrounding the south and east sides is in the OS2 district, which is office service. The property to the north is also in the OS2 district. Property to the south, beyond Spruce Street, is also the OS2. And we have one multifamily zoning district, the RM1, which is shown on the map as well. So primarily B2 and OS2 uses dominate in the area, and one small parcel that is in the multifamily district. Just to give some concept of the nature of the property is probably overbuilt for the typical house in this neighborhood. The former owners went to a lot of trouble to really dress up the property. There are natural fountains, there's a deck and built-in pool. You can see the various lighting effects in the area, and that gives you some concept of what the rear yard looks like at the nighttime view. With my staff analysis, as I mentioned, the property has been improved beyond the standard quality for the neighborhood, and that's both interior and exterior in terms of special cabinetry and appliances within the kitchen and things of that nature. The high quality and amenities found in this home make it particularly suitable to be used as a short-term rental. The existing OS2 zoning would not allow a single-family home, but that district also would allow uses such as offices, banks, and personal service establishments. and I believe under special use permit even as a multifamily development. The rezoning, although it is to a more intense commercial district than the OS2, it is being sought to create an opportunity for a more residential use because of the particular nature of how our zoning works. And it's kind of odd that way, but the more intense district allows the lighter use, which the lighter zone doesn't allow the lighter use. So kind of different in that respect, but that's what it is. Given that Cadillac does not have a downtown hotel or short-term rentals are really the only opportunity for tourists and visitors to experience the downtown without the need to be driving, say in from the hotels at the interchange and so forth. The Herman's establishment had several rooms. We don't know the current status of those several rooms, whether I suppose there's a good chance that they'll continue to be maintained in that area. But we'll have to see what comes out of the restaurant developer for that site. Tourists and visitors are more likely to spend more per capita within the downtown businesses than the year-round residents based on some of the studies that I have seen. As I mentioned, the rezoning is being sought to allow for a less dense use in the B2 district. And the rezoning request meets the rezoning considerations as contained in the zoning ordinance. That's quite lengthy. It's contained in my staff report, but all the basic questions with respect to is the use served by proper utilities and capacity to be served by city utilities, and also is it consistent with the master plan and some other questions. I've gone through those, and those answers are contained in the staff report. My staff recommendation is that I find that the rezoning application to place this property in the B2 zoning district equal to or better than its current designation as OS2, and that's also based on the proposed use as the applicant has proposed. I believe the proposed short-term rental use will be beneficial to the downtown as well. One of the goals that we've been trying to achieve in the downtown is to increase both the amount of long-term rentals, such as in Cadillac lofts, but also in short-term rentals to create a different avenue for people to enjoy the downtown. And the level of maintenance at this home, I think, when it goes into the short-term rental, particularly if it's through a formal setup like Airbnb, whereby the landlord and the person renting are both rated online as to the caliber of experience that they had, and then by the landlord, did the tenants take care of the property. I think that kind of setup provides for a little higher level of upkeep than you might get under a long-term rental situation. One of the things is, as a redevelopment-ready community, one of our goals that the state keeps pushing with us is to try and streamline the development and redevelopment review process in the city. That is one of the reasons, in that I found the proposed use to be compatible with the immediate area, that trying to proceed with this through a rezoning at this time. Another approach might have been to wait until the new zoning ordinance is out, but again, that would cause a multi-month delay in the procedure, and in keeping with the redevelopment-ready spirit, I thought the rezoning was appropriate. Under the current draft of the new zoning ordinance, the total rewrite, This proposed use would be consistent with the uses that have been outlined in that district. So probably coming down the line, unless something were to change before the Planning Commission or the council, right now, at this point in time, this would be a use that would be proposed without limitation in the downtown zoning district for which it's planned. So I didn't see an inconsistency in that regard as to where we're headed with the zoning ordinance. And of course, based on public input, although I don't see too many from the public that might want to address this, but given consideration of any public comment, and given the analysis and information provided in my staff report, that the motion could be that the Planning Commission recommends to the City Council that the property at 128 East Pine Street, and then the parcel numbers given, be rezoned from the OS2 Office Service District to the B2 Central Business District. Obviously, the Planning Commission, based on their discussion review, could take a different tact on that. That's just purely my recommendation, giving my involvement in the planning and zoning for that area. The applicant was supposed to be attending virtually, which I sent him the link earlier. I don't know that he has come into the room yet. Also, Leslie from Foster Swift is also attending virtually. Leslie, is he in the waiting room or is he online yet?
He is on, yeah. If the Planning Commission would like to hear from him, I can ask him to unmute himself.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you.
John, thank you so much for that. That really was a great rundown. And to the City Council and everyone here, thank you for hearing us out on this issue. Generally speaking, we love Cadillac. I'm sure a lot of you locals love it too. There's something about when we pull in and we see that sign, "Welcome to Cadillac," that gets us very excited about where we are. And to the point of what Cadillac offers and what is available for some of the shorter term or even midterm stays, I think it could benefit from having something like this. This house is definitely, as we've kind of all noticed, it's not your everyday house. I intend to use it probably about 5 to 10 times this year. I've used it twice. And for our purposes as a family, it's a lot of house. It's a lot of house, 6 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms. And what's special is how it allows, you go to a hotel, what do? You're staying as a couple, maybe you're staying alone. There's no communal area to enjoy and really, stay private while doing that. You have to go to the lobby, right? And that's where I think, for lack of a better word, marketing words, Airbnb kind of allows for that optionality for people to actually connect on a deeper level. And when I took my family up there the first couple times, we had amazing memories. We didn't get crazy. I don't think anybody's planning to do anything of the sort. And just to give you more background, we have had multiple lakefront homes, and we love traveling Michigan. We love Michigan, and all our neighbors have enjoyed us. They've applauded us for how we manage things, and I'll give you a little background on that. We have cameras in the front and back of the homes, so in terms of security and surveillance to ensure that things are being handled appropriately, we have that. B, we have a noise device that both measures how many cell phones are in the house at the time, as well as the noise and decibel level. So those are objective ways for us to police and monitor on our behalf. They are extra effort, but that's what we sign up to do. So these are ways I'm trying to show you guys that from if there was potential for a nuisance, they're 99% remedied already with what we do. Additionally, the majority of people that want to stay that have voiced it have been families. There are people that just kind of want the retreat, they want the getaway, and they have to inquire with us, and they have to prove that they have previous experience on Airbnb and have 5-star average reviews. So no, we do not allow people that haven't rented before to do these things unless they have some kind of existing relationship with us. And additionally, we do have phone call follow-up to actually kind of vet the stay a little bit more, because we haven't had parties, to be frank, and we've had a lot of experience with this. And there's a reason for that. It's because we do a lot of vetting. In fact, we've had, if anything, if I've ever seen an issue, it's usually just because somebody had a dog and the dog shed too much. That's pretty much the biggest issue we've seen. But as for the city, I wouldn't imagine that being an issue. Beyond that, I think I've covered most of my points. We also have a 3-night minimum. Again, that also deters a lot of short-term nonsense. And I think beyond that, I just wanted to answer any other questions if there were any. But I can tell you this, between the local workforce, we actually have local workforce already. We have some cleaners, we have some repairmen, handyman that we've been working with. We've been really kind of building our little community up there. We've been to some of the restaurants and the pizzerias. I can't even tell you how many times. But with all of that, I'm confident with the way that we're also directing traffic to the local Main Street strip. I'm confident everybody's going to benefit from something like this. And to John and the staff report, I think their insight on this was invaluable. I think it was well thought out, and I'm really glad to potentially be a part of that. And I hope you all see the benefits of this action. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Matt. Members, any questions for Matt since we have him?
None here.
Yep.
That was good.
Excellent. Everything good on our end, Matt?
Thank you.
We thank you. So, any questions for Mr. Wallace before I open public hearing?
No, I just thank you again for your
All right.
time and bringing us out.
Okay.
And sorry I couldn't make it. Unfortunately, I'm sure you guys have noticed the weather has not been ideal.
It is for the skiers, Matt. It is. Skiers and snowmobilers. Yes.
Right.
Okay.
It's not that time.
No.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to go ahead and open public hearing. And seeing and/or hearing no one, I will go ahead and close public hearing so that we may talk about this. Folks, what do you think? I think it's an awesome gig, personally,
I
but
think it's a no-brainer.
I'll keep you guys here 5 extra minutes then,
I know you
if you
would.
don't mind.
Oh, no. I was expecting you.
So I'm concerned not with this applicant, not with even potentially the use, especially quality use in this way, and in particular the question of whether this is the correct use for Cadillac in different places. John and I talked this afternoon. I sent an email to staff. I didn't want anybody to be surprised about my feelings on this issue. The staff report talks a lot about how good this house is for this use, how good this use may be. All of those things may be true, but this is an issue that is bigger than just one parcel and one rezoning. And I believe strongly that this should be John mentioned this could be part of a full rezoning ordinance. And this should be a discussion among the populace in Cadillac on whether this is a use that, per John's memo on the Cadillac City website, this was intentionally designed, allegedly, although through silence in lots of ways, to limit the use of short-term rentals in most zones in Cadillac. Whether that's a good or bad idea, that's not even my opinion right now. But doing these changes one-off because the house was overbuilt or because it's really nice or because the applicant's good, to me is not the way to make zoning policy. So for those reasons, I am against the rezoning. I'm not even necessarily against the use. But to me, much like our discussion last year about free speech around homes, this should be a broader discussion, not just a one-off. So that's my feeling.
Other than the people that immediately lived there, that staff obviously sent notices to, whom else, so you feel the entire city of Cadillac should have more voice?
Well, yeah, the question is whether the use and where the use is appropriate, not when one person shows up and says, I want to use it for that. When others, say along the lake or otherwise, can't, at least by city memo, use it for these purposes in houses that also may be overbuilt, appropriate for the area, not a significant increase. These are policy decisions that we're making that staff are recommending an exception for one parcel. And I don't think that's the right way to make policy. So,
I understand that view. Thank you for it, though. Big time. Anybody else have comments on that? I mean, I totally see where Joe is at. And it makes
I just
sense.
have a question.
Sure.
So, other people with the same, same, as you said, overbuilt on the lake and stuff, they can't do this?
Not really,
the-
because they would be in residential totally.
Yeah, I wrote a memo, which is on our website, that outlines all the different places people can do short-term rental. I believe they can do it in the TS1 and TS2 districts. I believe they can do it in the upper floors of the downtown district. I can't recall everything that was in the memo, but it's spelled out in detail on our website who's able to do it at this time. And that was based on an interpretation of the existing ordinance. And I believe when the existing ordinance was probably written, short-term rentals was not a big thing at that point in time. So I don't think they addressed it real specifically, but I had to look for clues in the words that they mentioned to figure out what I felt that they meant in the various districts where they would be permitted. But they are permitted in some districts.
The zoning change that we did, I don't know, roughly a year ago over on the west side, I think it was on Sunnyside.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, you go back to setting precedents for, you make, in so many things, you make a decision for one property that then, who knows down the road, well, you've done it for one, you've done it for other. What was the surrounding, does anybody recall, what was the surrounding zoning to that property?
It was TS,
You want me to
Was
speak?
it TS
Mike, why don't you?
one, or was it?
yeah.
The,
Commercial
the
cross.
home, was owned by, it's owned by a couple, down in the Grand Rapids area. But immediately to the west, it's zoned TS2, that's where the Coldwell Banker Realtor firm is at. Immediately to the south, it's zoned TS2, and that's a part of the Pines property. Immediately across the street to the north, there are residential homes, but that is also zone TS2. So on three sides, it's zone TS2, which permitted by use, or permitted, allows for that short-term rental. And then you've got to the east of it, you've got a couple, three, four homes. But then as soon as you get past there, you've got a motel, and you've got the waterfront restaurant, which also are zoned TS2.
Yes, Marcus.
Mr. Chair and members of the commission, for really whatever it might be worth, I did share a conversation with John, our development director, about the predicament that the planning commission is currently in considering this application, and certainly pending action tonight, presumably what predicament, if you will, city council will be in as they then consider the ordinance to potentially change the zoning. And, perhaps a taboo term of spot zoning came about, and, people like John and myself and Mike, when traditionally, schooled, we're always told, stay away from spot zoning. Nobody likes spot zoning, and you're always better off looking at a more holistic approach. Taking a bigger, higher altitude kind of view, and then doing the process in a sense, that way. John, I think, said it in a much more polished way than perhaps I'm communicating this right now. Those activities, those efforts are underway. We did, for the lack of a better way of describing it, do a rezoning application for a similar situation that Mike Coy just referenced, our zoning administrator, about a year or so ago. We are hopefully coming sooner than later with a rewrite of the zoning code, but basically we're here tonight in a way to expedite the request that came forward for this particular property, we felt comfortable bringing it to your attention now versus waiting on it for a couple of reasons. And again, John really hit it, I think, as a part of the conversation. Part of it is to try to continue with the whole spirit of being a redevelopment-ready certified community and kind of removing any impediments potentially that are in the way to slow down development and slow down activity. Bringing things as quickly, as reasonably, and as smartly as possible forward for consideration and discussion, while at the same time, trying to hold on to that balance of are we doing this, in a considerate manner. And Commissioner Baumann, I totally get where you're coming from, and I also agree with your sentiments that ideally we would be looking at this as a much broader conversation topic, versus the sort of one-offs. And unfortunately, we're sort of in another one-off situation now, knowing that we are going to have the much broader topic coming forward. It's just a matter of this would delay and perhaps have our new owner, property owner, lose out on a whole season of opportunity. Because even with the zoning rewrite coming up, what presumably will be this spring/summer, it'll take several public hearings, probably even unofficial public forums before we get to the public hearing component to it, both at this level and then with the city council level. So we're really likely talking about an extended or protracted period of time before everything gets set. But I will stop rambling and let the conversation go back to the commission. So.
This topic, I think, better than 2 years now, when we are done with our friends at the Michigan Municipal League, this is something that every single city is having to address. And everybody's doing it at a different pace because it's becoming more and more, it's much bigger. It didn't used to exist. And so now how do we properly deal with it? And so, as Marcus said, we want to be the front runners in that conversation and figure this out. But I think that, and while I respect Joe's thoughts and appreciate that, I also agree with the thought that this would be really good for this property downtown. We certainly appreciate the investment in the community. And I think that at least in the downtown area, that's probably where those properties will end up. I don't know that, but I would guess. If we're talking about having a walkable downtown, I think that would be our focus, is to allow this. But, I don't know. So, but it's a beautiful home and it's a beautiful property. And, so I appreciate all the input from the city staff and also from Matthew.
Thank you. Everybody else got thoughts?
John, Matt had his hand raised if the commission would be interested in hearing from him in response to some of the comments of discussion of the commission.
Which John are you talking to?
Wallace, but any of the members of the commission. The applicant, Matt, has his hand raised on the Zoom call and would like to make an additional comment if the commission is open to additional comment from him.
Oh, sure. Yes, please do.
Okay, go ahead, Matt.
Thank you. I honestly think there's a lot of good commentary here. And I guess what I want to add is while I think the title, the word Airbnb has become, that's a new thing, but what's not new is how we all used to go vacation with our family and friends, wherever, it was usually just weekly rentals. It's just a new marketing term. So, I don't want that to create any issue or fear. And again, I think one of the best parts of what that is it actually allows for vetting and confirmation of who and what is renting. I know that's not so much the issue. I just want to make sure that we're keeping that in mind. And apologies, because I thought we had done our due diligence when we bought this property. When we looked at the map, and I guess we should have zoomed in closer because it's literally right on the hair. If you look at that block, it's got kind of an interesting little zigzag Z across this block, and our parcel is actually two parcels. So it's arguably half in the right zone. And that's been, I think, part of where this issue even stemmed from. We actually thought we were zoned appropriately. And I really appreciate the support to, expedite to get this going. But, had depending on how you look at that map, it's B2 versus OS2. And I think, to make the plea about zoning, I would like to be considered, if we're half that or at least on the border, we're just asking that for that Z to extend a little bit further. And beyond that, the zoning map. Oh yeah, and when I went over with John in pretty good detail, John Wallace, what is entitled and possible between the two zonings. We actually find there's a lot of, I don't know how else to say it, but there's some confusion about how you interpret and read those rules. You could make the argument that both are possible the way it was open to interpretation in our view and a few others. So I think that's part of the challenge here is whether it was OS2 or B2, there's an argument that both are viable. And so I guess if it's a matter of, is it half parcel here or half parcel there, if it's a zoning change, great. If it's a reframing of the title or the encompassing factors of what the zoning allows for, I know it could be that too. I'm not sure. And, I do understand there could be a larger issue on the horizon as, John has been building the case for, expanded growth and changes in zoning across the whole region. I understand and I appreciate that. But I guess if I had to plead one way, of course, it is self-serving. There's no question, but we've built a framework with locals. And I do think that this will enhance the downtown district. I do think that there's an argument that it is already zoned appropriately, or at least even if you split it down the parcel, which it's 2 parcels originally. So, if anything, we're asking to be defaulted into the B2. And I think that would do it. But again, if you go back and read what the opportunities are within those zones, there's definitely some gray area.
Agreed. Thank you for your additional comments.
Thank you for hearing them.
What's anybody thinking? I understand Joe's point. I understand Matt's point.
I do.
I understand the mayor's point.
Well, I'll just say this because I wasn't going to say anything, but if this was all residential, I'd say no.
Understood, and it's not.
But it's not.
Yeah.
BS2 is next door. And you're saying, Matt, that half of your lot is BS2?
That's what he just said.
That's what it is, B2? I'm sorry, B2?
Yeah. That's what he stated.
So the pool is BS2.
Mm-hmm.
The pool in the garage.
And I understand completely what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, I'm looking around at all the other area, and to me, it's not a big jump to do that.
Right.
And quite honestly, it's a beautiful home. I didn't realize it was like that, or I would have bought it.
Greg had it on the market for a while.
I didn't know.
Yeah, but until Greg put it out on the market, no one knew what was above the wall.
But I think it's a great thing. In fact, I got family coming in May for my son's graduation, and had this been open at that time, I would have put him in there.
Nice.
So,
Would have been happy to have you.
but anyway, just
You'd have
my
to be
opinion,
glad.
I'm thinking it's not a big jump just to go ahead and finish off the B2 for his area on that lot. And I do think that we need to really think about how we're gonna rezone this, because as you said, spot zoning is dangerous. We've had it here throughout the
We've all been taught that's a no-no.
25 years I've been doing this, and we've been burned a couple times, so, because once you do it, it's done.
Yep.
Most of those houses on Spruce Street are rentals. There's people in and out of there constantly. And I don't want to disagree with what I'm seeing here, but the houses to the south side of that are all rentals. Yeah. There's 40 cars in front of each one of them, and they're changing over constantly. And personally, I just as soon see something like this that is more self-sufficient and of a much cleaner and quieter nature than a rental. So I think it's a step up.
Question maybe for Mike.
Yes, Greg.
When we look at the B2 that, contains the Herman's building
Right.
on Spruce, we have the home that sits immediately behind that to the west of the alley,
Correct.
which is a rental. In the B2, how does that, it's a long-term rental, in a B2, what allows that in B2?
A long-term rental, I'm gonna touch on two things.
Okay.
It's allowed, and if you remember a couple years ago, when we took what was called rental units, housing rental units in that downtown B2 district, it used to be that you had to go before the planning commission for a special land use to have a rental dwelling in that downtown B2 district. Our RRC certification, one of the things that came before you is they made it a requirement that in that core downtown, you have to take something like that specific, which was a special land use, and make it permitted by right. And that was something that came before you, recommended, went before council. So they can do that. And to Dale, your point, you're right, a lot of those homes on Spruce are already registered rentals, and I believe at least one of them is a registered multifamily rental. So, but my understanding, and I really should read more in depth, but with the change and taking the dwelling unit from a special land use to a permitted use, that basically answers that question.
So the reason I asked that question would, and maybe this is looked at in the master plan as well, instead of spot zoning, would that whole office 2 be looked at becoming a B2 instead of just this one site?
That will be an issue that will definitely come up when the entire ordinance is updated. Would you agree with that, John?
Yeah, and just for the record, I don't believe this is spot zoning because it's not independent, it's not an island, it's associated with a B2 district, which is immediately adjacent to the property. So I don't think we have spot zoning in this case. Just
Right.
to put the record straight on that, we don't have that here, I don't think.
But I think also to Commissioner Bosher, to your point, the question of the use itself, the use being short-term rental use, that will be what the master planning update is going to address. So whether it's saying that type of use is allowed in the B2 or the OS2 or the TS1 or the TS2 or any combination of different zones, that is going to be what you'll see when you're considering that particular type of use and how it would be allowed or not allowed across a variety of different zoning districts. Does that help clarify a little bit?
Yes.
Yeah, the new zoning ordinance, once it's approved, you'll see that it makes a lot more sense in terms of
Right.
straightening out, different kind of things that are just don't make sense, just, little pieces that are stuck here and there. It'll make a whole lot more sense when you see the new districts.
And John, thank you for clarifying. I didn't mean to set anybody off on astray, so.
We're all strays anyway.
Yeah.
John, could you bring the motion back up so we could review that again, please?
And you could add to that, you could recognize that there was no public comment. You should consider public comment as part of that too, but since there was none, you may want to work that into the motion.
You want John to read it to you?
No,
Okay.
I'm good. Thank you, though. All right, group. Good discussions. And this is recommendation to council only. We don't have the final say.
That's correct.
So.
I guess I'll make a recommendation that we approve this to go to city council per the recommended motion.
And added, no,
I don't know if anybody wants to add
no
anything
one
to that.
in the audience. And
Oh, no one's here to oppose it? I don't know if you got anything saying it was okay from anybody.
We
so-
had no correspondence. I had one phone call, and when we finished discussing it, that person.
So what does that look like in the motion? You're saying add it, but what would that look like in the
So I
motion?
would say, given the analysis and information provided in the Community Development Director Staff Report, and the fact that there was no written communication or public comment during the public hearing, the Planning Commission recommends to the City Council that the property at 128 East Pine Street, parcel number 10-086-00-159-02, be rezoned from the OS2 Office Service District to the B2 Central Business District.
I'm good with that.
Okay.
Who wants to second it?
I'll support that.
Mr. Bunsell, second it.
Okay. Rice,
Yes.
Bauman,
Subject to my previous objections, nay.
Filkins,
Yes.
Bunce,
Yes.
Bosher,
Yes.
Fent,
Yes.
Putvin.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
There it is. Okay, new business being none, old business none, board member comments, anyone?
Happy to be here. The weather was nice
Happy to be on the planet.
on the way up. I was thinking about you from Big Rapids all the way to Cadillac.
No communications, John stated, no other business, and we are out. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Drive
Thank you.
safely, everybody.